It's time for Dodger Baseball. Live from Dodger Stadium, Sportsnet LA presents the Dodgers as they take on the Colorado Rockies. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Sunday to you, wherever you may be. Dodgers bringing down the curtain, closing up the season, final game of the regular season, and here at Dodger Stadium, where they're trying to polish off the Colorado Rockies. A couple of notes about the Dodgers. First of all, they have beaten Colorado 12 of 18, trying to go for 13. The ball club is also trying to win its 94th game of the year, and that would be steady progress for Don Mattingly. His numbers as the manager, 82, 86, 92, and right now 93. So he's shown progress every year as the Dodgers go into the postseason once again. On the mound, Zach Greinke looking for his 17th win of the year. 3 times in his career, he's won 16. So this will be a high watermark for him today. And Christian Bergman will be on the mound for Colorado. He made his major league debut against the Dodgers. Kind of a cold, windy day in Denver. I think the temperature was about 72, and the Dodgers roughed him up for 6 runs early in the game, and he was done. But for Greinke, he is 5-2 lifetime against Colorado as he finishes up the year. One other note, Hyun-Jin Ryu threw a bullpen today, but we'll really have to wait until tomorrow to see if he suffers any ill effects. So we'll get to the ball game and a whole lot more coming up right after this.
Absolutely electric atmosphere here at Dodger Stadium on Wednesday night. The Los Angeles Dodgers clinching the division title in the National League West in front of a sold-out crowd at Dodger Stadium. Very excited to celebrate with their team. Hello, everybody, and welcome inside Dodger Stadium. I'm Alana Rizzo. Game 162, the last game of the 2014 regular season, and Dodger fans certainly have had a lot to celebrate this year, but they have come out in full force. It wasn't just the night of the clincher with Clayton Kershaw on the hill. They've been doing it all season long. 3 million in attendance for the 28th time in franchise history, 18 of the last 19 years. Total attendance this season, over 3.7 million, the best in the big. St. Louis is in second. Average attendance this year, 46,676. You guys have made a difference. That led all of Major League Baseball. On behalf of the Dodgers and Sportsnet LA, we want to say thank you to the fans for making 2014 so special. Zach Greinke on the bump for the last game of the regular season, looking for his 17th win of the year. It would be a career high for the right-hander. After the break, Vin Scully calls the final game of 2014.
Walked up to home plate, shaking hands with the managers, not only to present the Dodger lineup card, but he is wearing number 8, Don Mattingly's number. And today, this last regular season game, Juan Uribe has become the acting manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers. His pitching coach will be Clayton Kershaw, and his bench coach will be Hanley Ramirez, wearing number 29, which is normally worn by Tim Wallach. So right here at the outset, you expect it will be kind of a different game, and we'll be watching the dugout for any of the hijinks that might take place today. And if you're Zach Greinke, how would you like to have the sight of Clayton Kershaw walking out to the mound to talk to you in a tough situation? It could happen. But when the dust settles, the Dodgers are also trying to win their 94th game. And as we mentioned at the outset, Walt Weiss and his ball club would like to snap a 3-game losing streak and another very poor road trip. The road has just killed the Rockies. Let's take a look at their lineup. Charlie Blackmon leads off in right field. Rafael Enoa at third base. Ben Paulson, who's hit 2 home runs in 2 games, now gets a chance to start at first. Willen Rosario behind the plate, and Drew Stubbs in center field. Brandon Barnes in left. Josh Rutledge, the shortstop. Charlie Culberson at second base, and the pitcher is Christian Bergman. On the mound for the Dodgers, Zach Greinke. He is 16-8. He has won 16 games 3 times in his career, and certainly he would love to pitch just long enough and get a decision to win his 17th today. He is 1-0 against the Rockies this year, and he is 5-2 lifetime. Headline news today: Washington facing Miami, and Jordan Zimmerman just pitched a no-hitter against Miami, and they say the last out was a diving catch to preserve it. Meanwhile, our ball game, Charlie Blackmon, left-hand hitting outfielder, brings a lot to the dance. 19 home runs, but he also has 28 stolen bases, and he takes a strike, and we're well underway. Another sideline story, of course, is about the man who wasn't here, almost like the man who came to dinner and never showed up, and that would be Justin Morneau. Here's the strike one pitch to Blackmon, swung on and missed, and the count 0-2. Justin Morneau in a head-to-head race for the batting crown with Josh Harrison. And for Harrison, the last we checked, he was 0 for 3 in his game against Johnny Cueto. So it looks like that Justin Morneau, not in the lineup today, will win the batting crown with a .319 batting average. Greinke ready, turns, right-handed, comes back 0-2. Blackmon ground ball to the right side. Darwin Barney throws him out. So we have one away here in the first inning. For the Rockies, and you hate to use the word, but as the Dodgers set up their defense, Gonzalez and Barney, Aruba, Reyna, and Rojas, Crawford, Puig, and Kemp, Ellis behind the plate, and Greinke on the mound. For the Rockies, they have a mark on them they certainly don't like, but they are the worst Colorado baseball team on the road in the history of the franchise. Believe it or not, they've won 21 games on the road and lost 59. So 38 games below 500. When they're home, they're a different ball club. They're 45-36. But this is the worst one on the road. Again, however, it's a ball club that's really been decimated by injuries. And Noah, meanwhile, swings, doesn't get it, and the count 0-2. Temperature this afternoon, 75 degrees. Not much humidity. Light breeze blowing the flags from right to left in center field. Blue sky speckled with little lambs running across it all day long. And the strike two pitch is low, ball 1-2. The year of 2014 might be marked by a couple of things. The fact that there was only about 13 batters that hit 300. Here's the 1-2 pitch on the way, swung on and missed, and down goes Inoa. Though we have 2 down in the first inning, and Ben Paulson coming up. Anyway, in a year where the hitters struggled, it's reflected in the no-hitters. You had Zimmerman today. You had Cole Hamels along with Jonathan Papelbon and Jake Diekman, Ken Giles, Tim Lincecum, Clayton Kershaw, and Josh Beckett. So we've had our share of no-hitters and the rare 300 hitter. And of course, as we mentioned, Morneau looks like he's a lock now to win the batting crown. Ben Paulson, 2 home runs in 2 games, gets a chance to start. Greinke ready and delivers. Big Ben swings and doesn't get it. 1-1. Another note from last night's game: LaTroy Hawkins appeared in 1,000 games when he made his appearance last night. Jesse Orosco has made the most appearances. Jesse was in 1,252 games. Now the 1-1 pitch on the way, taken off the plate. Mike Stanton, 1178. John Franco, 1119. Mariano Rivera, 1115. So those were the real workhorses down through the years, and they had LaTroy Hawkins. Ground ball to short, just where Arrubarena was playing. He kind of lobs the throw over to first base. Wow. He made a routine ground ball, a bang-bang play. And down go the Rockies in the first inning. So at the end of half an inning, the Rockies nothing, and the Dodgers coming up. Inning the skipper Juan Uribe deep in thought as he leans on the railing in front of the Dodger dugout. And here is his lineup. Darwin Barney at second base, Yasiel Puig in center, Adrian Gonzalez at first, and Matt Kemp in right field. Then you have Carl Crawford in left, A.J. Ellis behind the plate, Miguel Rojas at third, Arisbel Arubarena at short, and Zach Greinke the pitcher. On the mound, Christian Bergman with a record of 3-4. Bergman made an appearance, his first in the big leagues against the Dodgers. It wasn't a very pleasant day in the weather department, and it certainly wasn't a pleasant day for Christian Bergman. Dodgers roughed him up for 6 runs in the first inning and went on to beat him. He is 3-4. He's out of Irvine, California, went to UC Irvine, signed with the Rockies after they chose him out of the University of California, Irvine, and he was signed in 2010 in the 24th round. Darwin Barney will lead it off for the Dodgers, followed by Yasiel Puig and then Adrian Gonzalez. The final numbers on the batting title, and as we said, Justin Morneau hit .319 to win it as Barney takes a strike. Josh Harrison of the Pittsburgh Pirates went 0 for 4 and finished at .315. Andrew McCutchen went 1 for 3. He finished at .314. So Justin Morneau joined such great names in Colorado history: Galarraga, Walker, Helton, Holliday, Gonzalez, Padilla, and Morneau. Meanwhile, the 1-1 pitch, Barney hits it in the air to left field and deep. Going back is Brandon Barnes on the track, and one hands it right at the wall. So Darwin Barney a long out to left. One down here in the first inning. And we can take a look at Colorado defensively. Paulson and Culberson, Rutledge and Inoa, Barnes, Stubbs, and Blackman, with Rosario behind the plate, and Christian Bergman on the mound. One away in the bottom of the first inning, and of course for the Rockies, all they can do is keep saying to themselves, what a year it might have been, except for all the injuries. There's Puig. He'd love to hit at 300 before the season runs out today. Hitting .297, hits a high twisting foul ball. Paulson comes over and has to watch it go back into the crowd, and the count 0-1. Sometime during today, in the first 3 innings, we came across a story I'm sure you'll be interested in. If you're a baseball fan, even a fleeting thought might have been, I wonder what it'd been like if I could manage in the big leagues. Well, tell you about a game where it actually happened. Strike one pitch, Puig swings and misses, and the count 0-2. It was a Friday night. It was August the 24th, 1951, and the Philadelphia Athletics were playing the St. Louis Browns. Well, that's a long time ago. Bill Veeck, one of the greatest promoters baseball ever knew, in those days owned the St. Louis Browns. Puig takes strike 3 call, though he have 2 down in the first inning, and the batter will be Adrian Gonzalez. And of course, for Adrian, he comes up as the leader in the big leagues with 113 runs batted in. Been a great year for Gonzalez. 26 home runs to go along with all the ribbies. Anyway, Bill Veeck, who had done so many different things, he was the one who introduced the midget to have an official at bat. Eddie Goodell, a little more than 3.5 feet tall, and he was walked by the opposing pitcher. Adrian Gonzalez takes outside, ball 1. Well, Bill Veeck had another idea. He got to thinking about how the average baseball fan would always second guess the manager, always say he should have done this, why didn't he do that? I mean, it's all part of being with the game. The 1-0 pitch on the corner for a strike, 1-1. So Veeck decided, why don't I have a grandstand manager's night, and we'll have fans vote for the ball game. The 1-1 pitch swung on and missed 1-2. So the first thing he did was he put an ad in the paper, and he asked people to write in as to why they felt they were accomplished enough to manage. It said if you'd like to be a grandstand manager the night of the 24th, just send your name and address. Meanwhile, Gonzalez sends the ball in the gap to left center. Adrian is on his way to a stand-up double for Gonzalez. 41 doubles and 26 home runs. What a year. So a 2-out double by Adrian Gonzalez, and the batter will be Matt Kemp. The ad read, if you'd like to be a grandstand manager, fill in your name, address, zone number, city or town below. Then they asked to have the readers fill out a starting lineup exclusive of the pitcher, and then send the ballot to the sports department of the St. Louis Globe-Democrat. So that was the beginning, the idea, and then the ads went out in the paper. Well, as you can well imagine, they were thousands and thousands of letters, and they came from almost everywhere, as far away as Alaska. Matt Kemp takes a pitch off the plate, ball one. They said the actual count, there were over 4,000 letters. They came from Anchorage, Alaska, and Brooklyn, New York. And from those letters, Bill Veeck selected 2 men to be honorary coaches as Matt Kemp fouls it back. So 1 ball and 1 strike to Matt. A 2-out double by Gonzalez. Bottom of the first, no score. The amazing Bill Veeck, whose biography was titled Veeck as in wreck. But he was more than that. He was truly remarkable. Here's the 1-1 pitch to Matt Kemp. Foul back. 1-2 to Matt. Hitting .284. 24 home runs. 87 runs batted in. So Veeck now has put the ad in the paper. He has gotten over 4,000 letters. He has selected 2 men to be honorary coaches. It's an appropriate story with Juan Uribe as the acting manager today. 1-2 pitch on the way. Kemp takes low. 2-2. And to repeat, the Dodgers pitching coach today is Clayton Kershaw. The bench coach is Hanley Ramirez. 2-2 to Matt. Well, finally, the night of August the 24th, 1951 arrived, and Ned Garver, an ace pitcher with the Browns, on the mound. Meanwhile, Matt Kemp unloads deep to left field, gone. His 25th home run. He has 89 runs batted in, and the Dodgers lead 2-0. So Matt Kemp heading for the bubble machine and the victory dance in the near corner of the dugout. 25 home runs. And as he goes down the steps, he'll be pounded on the head, which is what they do all the time. And the bubbles are flying. And the Dodgers, who abused Bergman in Denver, is off to raise some lumps on his hide today. And the batter is Carl Crawford, and he takes a strike, and the count 0-1. The pitcher for the Browns that year, Ned Garver, was such a good pitcher. He was a 20-game winner with a team that lost over 100 games. There's a line drive base hit by Crawford, so Bergman, with 2 out, gives up the long double to Gonzalez, the long home run to Kemp, and the line drive single to right to Carl Crawford. So the batter now will be A.J. Ellis. Crawford continues to play super ball, as is Matt Kemp. So the club is getting ready for the playoffs. They certainly look like they're ready. Crawford with a 7-game hitting streak after Matt Kemp registered with the 2-run home run. A.J. Ellis checking in. Matt Kemp, by the way, hitting his 25th home run. He has 19 against right-hand pitching. Here's A.J. Ellis, who was not himself last night. That's a story in itself. When Dan Herron pitched and then left the ball game, he had a long drive to go home. So he left the clubhouse. So they couldn't discuss anything with Dan Herron. and they decided to talk to A.J. Ellis. Here's the 1-0 pitch, swung on, ground ball slowly to third, and Noah picks it up plenty of time, throws out A.J. And Ellis handled the interview, had some nice things about his stuff, and he praised his catcher as he was acting for Dan Harris. Take another look. Matt Kemp unloading halfway up the pavilion in left field with a man aboard, and at the end of an inning, the Dodgers get the jump on the Rockies 2-0. The Rockies 2-0. We go to the top of the second. Rosario, Stubbs, and Barnes. And if you don't mind, we're going to make that trip back to the night in August of 1951. Fan manager is what they call them, the grandstand managers. And the first pitch to Rosario is swung on and missed. 0-1 the count. In the very first inning, with Ned Garver pitching a 20-game winner, he gave up 3 runs in the first inning to the Philadelphia Athletics. And on cue, one of the men in the grandstands held up a sign. Shall we change the pitcher? Here's the strike one pitch coming up to Rosario. Changes high. They had a judge, a true judge, doing the count as to yes and no. And Garver himself found himself looking over behind the dugout to see how the fans would vote. And it added up far more no's than yes. And Garver said he heaved a sigh of relief and went back to work. Imagine that. 1-1 pitch, half swing, and a hopper to Gonzalez. Throws accurately to Greinke, and we have one away. Well, they allowed to keep Garver in the game, and then it continued. Now, where was the manager? Zach Taylor was sitting in a club box in street clothes with his feet up on the railing, reading a newspaper while the game was in progress. Jimmy Dykes, a very colorful manager of the Philadelphia Athletics, decided that he would raise Cain just for the fun of it. And he got into a brutal argument with the plate umpire, saying in order to count the yeas and the nays, it would take too much time, delay the game, and maybe even hurt his pitcher. But that was all part of the gag, prearranged. Well, in the middle of the game, here's the strike one pitch coming up to Drew Stubbs, right-hand batter with 15 home runs. He takes high, 1 ball, 1 strike. There was a time with 2 men on base. In fact, maybe the bases were loaded. And the question was, somebody held up a sign, infield in, infield out. And the fans all voted for infield in. 1-1 pitch, swung on and missed. Well, the catcher was named Sherm Lawler, and Lawler didn't like the idea of playing the infield in, nor did Ned Garver. So they'd have a meeting at the mound, and they would wait to see if the votes might change. I mean, just imagine this happening in a real game. 1 ball and 2 strikes, the count to Drew Stubbs. Greinke delivers, slider misses, 2-2. Well, they still had to play the infield up. But Lawler each time kept going to the mound, and finally the fans reconsidered, and they said infield back. They put the infield back. Darned if the next hitter didn't hit into a double play. And the fan managers, or whatever they call them, stood up, took an applause, and on went the evening. How it ended up, I don't know, but it's a classic case brought about today when you have Juan Uribe managing, Hanley Ramirez his bench coach, and Clayton Kershaw the pitching coach. 3-2 is swung on. That's going to be hit into left center for a base hit. Crawford over to scoop it up. So Stubbs a 1-out single, and that will bring up Brandon Barnes.
The fielder, number 1, Brandon Barnes.
2-0 Dodgers, second inning. There were a couple of ball games very much up in the air. Remember Pittsburgh and the Cardinals. The last we looked, Pittsburgh was losing, and they lost. So the Cardinals now in the tall cotton, they automatically will clinch. Now that might change their pitching a little bit. They had planned on starting Adam Wainwright today against Arizona. Pitch is bunted up along first, down to get it. Greinke lobs over to Gonzalez in time, and on the bunt, which will be ruled a sacrifice, but Barnes was bunting for a base hit. You have a runner at second with 2 out, and the batter will be Josh Rutledge. Maybe Wainwright, who certainly will open up the series, I would assume, against the Dodgers. Wainwright will pitch a couple of innings, just like Greinke plans on doing today. Rutledge, right-hand hitter. 2-0 Dodgers, second inning. Drew Stubbs, good lead at second base. And he's going to third. The pitch outside, the throw down, it gets away. And into third safely goes Drew Stubbs. So Stubbs steals third. Shades of Scott Van Slyke, who helped winning the game last night by stealing third and then scoring the winning run on a wild pitch. So Stubbs now at third with 2 down. We get a report now, and talking about the Cardinals in Arizona, Wainwright was supposedly to start, but now that the Cardinals have won, Wainwright pulled before the start of the game and will not pitch today. So it looks like a great pitching duel, game 1, and that will be Adam Wainwright for the Cardinals, I would be sure, against Clayton Kershaw. What a way to start the League Division Series. 2-0 Dodgers, second inning. Stubbs at third. Greinke at the belt. Zach ready and comes to his hitter. Rutledge hits one into left center. That's going to drop for a base hit. Scoring easily is Stubbs. So the Dodger lead is halved. It's 2-1 Dodgers, and Rutledge base hit. Run batted in.
Second baseman number 23, Charlie Culberson.
So Charlie Culberson coming in. Base hit. A bunt to get him to second. Stolen base by Stubbs. And a looping single to center by Rutledge. 2-1 Dodgers. 2 down. And the number 8 hitter, the shortstop and second baseman playing second, Charlie Culberson. DJ LeMahieu opened the series at second, sprained his knee, though he's out of it for the rest of this game and the season. The pitch in for a strike, and the count 0-1. The Rockies without Troy Tulowitzki, without Carlos Gonzalez. They lost half their pitching staff. They have just been severely wrecked by injuries. Foul ball back. At home, they still had a good year. They were 9 games above 500 at home. But it's the old question about any Rockies ball club. How do you do at sea level? Well, they were awful. 38 games under 500 on the road. They talk about a comet coming down to earth. Baseball's answer would be the Colorado Rockies. Strike 2 pitch on the way to Culberson. The right-hand hitter looks, and it's off the plate. And the count 1 ball and 2 strikes. One footnote on that story about the grandstand managers. When the game ended, they had a fireworks display, and they also had a writing up on the board, the pitch high 2-2, and it said, "Thank you, grandstand managers, for a swell job. Zach," meaning Zach Taylor, "will manage tomorrow." And that's the end of the fan as the manager experiment back in 1951. 2-2 the count to Culberson. Greinke throws to first. Rutledge back to the bag. Rutledge has 2 stolen bases. 2-1 Dodgers, second inning. Greinke set, looks over at first. Zach ready and delivers, and it's a pop fly foul off first base. That's going to go back into the crowd. And the count 2 balls and 2 strikes. Fan Appreciation Day, and throughout the afternoon there's some great prizes to be given away. So the good folks are here. The Dodgers on the last day have played before 3,734,000. So they're not going to get to 3.8, but they sure are going to be close enough. Dodger fans have come to the ballpark in great numbers all year. The Dodger attendance, the average game, 46,676. Great average. Here's the 2-2 pitch coming up to Culberson. Runner going. Colby swings and misses, and that's that. So Greinke picks up his second strikeout, but he also gives up a run on 2 hits. And at the end of an inning and a half, 2-1 Dodgers. It's 2-1, bottom of the second inning. As we've told you, the Pirates lost. The Cardinals have clinched, so the Dodgers will play St. Louis here Friday. Dodgers did pretty well. They won 4 of 7 from St. Louis, hitting .261, and as usual, getting wonderful pitching, an earned run average against St. Louis of 2. And the Big Birds, Johnny Peralta, 21 home runs. Matt Holliday has 90 RBIs, and the ace Adam Wainwright looking for his 21st victory. He's 20-9, and he'll go up against Clayton Kershaw on Friday. We're still not sure. We've not been given the time of the game, not yet. And the first pitch popped back at first base. Paulson backs up, makes the catch. That takes care of Rojas, and we have one out in the second inning. And of course, remember, fellas like Rojas, Arrubarena, Barney, they're all battling to make the squad that will be here to play Friday. So this is not just an exercise for those who are on the bubble, so to speak. Arrubarena, a Cuban, came up late to the Dodgers, struggling with the bat, struck out last night. Swings, big swing, doesn't get it, and the count 0-1. So now that it's been settled in the National League West and the picture firms up, the Giants will go to Pittsburgh for a one-game playoff. High fly ball to deep right. Going back is Blackman on the track, not quite on the track, and makes the catch. So Arrubarena, fly ball to right, 2 down, and the batter will be Zach Greinke. So the Giants and Pittsburgh in that big one-game playoff. Whoever wins that game will then have the pleasure of playing the Washington Nationals. Washington has won 95 games, 8 of the last 10, and just buried all of the other teams in the National League East. Two to one Dodgers, 2 down, second inning. Greinke takes a pitch on the inside corner for a strike. Zach, pretty good hitter. One year won the Silver Slugger Award. This year he has 11 hits, including a home run, and 3 runs batted in. Looks at a strike, and the count 0-2. The Christian Bergman roughed around with 2 out in the first inning, now trying to settle down. Right-hander turns, ready, and comes back to Greinke on the hands, and it's pulled foul outside of third. For the Pirates and the Giants to meet in that pressure-packed one game for all the marbles. They haven't faced each other in such a clutch performance since 1971. Little foul off to the left out of play. Dodgers picked up 2 with 2 out in the first inning. Gonzalez doubled, Matt Kemp homered, Carl Crawford singled. They left him. And then Greinke gave up the run in the second inning. Strike 2 pitch on the way, pulled on the ground wide of third. Nice pick by Inoa to throw him out easily. I tell you what, Rafael Inoa is doing a terrific job at third base in place of Nolan Arenado. And for Inoa, you may not know, he spent 8 years in the Dodgers minor league system, and it's 2-1 Dodgers. On to the third inning. By the way, we were talking earlier about the acting manager, Juan Uribe, wearing number 8. However, he has switched. He is now wearing uniform number 2 in honor of Tommy Lasorda, who is sitting in the box just to the right of the dugout. So Tommy's shirt is worn by Juan Uribe, and of course, before Tommy had it, it was really known in the borough of Brooklyn as the manager Leo DeRocher's number. First pitch in for a strike to Christian Bergman. 2-1 Dodgers, third inning. Greinke, 3 times in his career, has won 16, and he's trying to win for the first time 17 today. So you can bet he's taking it seriously. Yes, the Tommy Lasorda bobblehead doll is nodding approval that Juan Uribe should wear number 2. No balls and 2 strikes the count. Christian Bergman, the pitcher, at the plate. Greinke trying to start off the inning with an out, and it is swung on and missed, and down goes Bergman. 1 out, strikeout number 3. You know, Dodger season tickets are currently unavailable, but you can sign up for the 2015 season ticket waitlist. Waitlist members will be contacted by a Dodger rep on a first-come, first-served basis. So for more information, visit Dodgers.com/season tickets or simply call 323-DODGERS today. 2-1. Favor of the Dodgers. 1 out, third inning. Charlie Blackmon, left-hand hitter at the plate. Charlie looks at ball 1, 1-0. In talking about the Giants meeting the Pirates in a winner-take-all one game, the last time the Giants played Pittsburgh in the postseason was 1971. The 1-0 pitch way inside. 2 balls and no strikes. The Pirates won the league championship series 3-1, and then Pittsburgh went on to beat Baltimore in 7 games to win the World Series. The MVP of that World Series was the great Roberto Clemente. The 2-0 pitch on the way, taken for a strike. 8 years later, you may remember the Pirates would again beat the Orioles in the 1979 World Series. That was the ball club. Among other people, a standout was Wilbur Stargell. Here's the 2-1 pitch on the way. Line drive, a leaping try, but Gonzalez couldn't do it. And Blackmon avoid. And watching Kemp decides to take the extra base and does. So Charlie Blackmon with 28 stolen bases, singles, and then looks at Kemp going to the foul line and decides to take the extra base and does. So Blackmon turning a single into a double. That means the tying run is out there in scoring position. Gonzalez just missed it in his leap, and Kemp, having to come over to the line, had to pick and turn his back, and when he did, Blackmon was well on his way to second base. 27 doubles, 19 home runs, 28 stolen bases. Not a bad year at all for Charlie Blackmon. Here's Rafael Inoa, struck out in the first inning. Switch hitter, batting left-handed. Greinke delivers outside, ball 1. Blackmon has stolen third base 6 times this year. He was picked off in the first game as he was trying to get a jump to steal third. So they had best watch him right now with 1 out. Greinke looking to Ellis. If Ellis thinks they might have a shot at Blackmon, he would call for a pitch out. The next pitch is looked at for a strike, and the count 1 ball, 1 strike. Juan Uribe, I would assume, since he is the acting manager, Uribe's the one who would call for the pitch out if indeed it's coming. 1 ball, 1 strike. Greinke looks at Blackmon, comes back to the hitter with a second strike, and the count 1-2. 1 out in the third. Dodgers scored 2 in the first inning. Rockies came back with 1 in the second. Inoa with the left-hand hitting Ben Paulson on deck. Eric Young coaching at first, Stu Cole at third. Eric Young, of course, known for stolen bases. He had 465, so I'm sure he adds his experience. Although the Rockies are not based as a running team, they still have stolen 84. The next pitch fouled away, though the count remains 1-2. Yasiel Puig in straightaway center field has had a couple of great throws in the last few days, one to the plate, one to third. He leads the league in assists out there. He now has 15. 1-2 to Rafael Inoa. Greinke reading Ellis. Arozarena directly behind Blackmon, so he can't take too much of a lead. That's the luxury of having the left-hand hitter. Now the pitch to Inoa, high and inside. Rafael gets out of the way, and the count 2-2 strikes. After today, the Dodgers will have tomorrow off, and then they'll work out on Tuesday, they'll work out on Wednesday, and they'll work out lightly on Thursday, and then for keeps against the Cardinals Friday. We are still not aware of the time of the game. 2-2 pitch on the outside corner. So down goes Inoa, striking out a second time, and that's 4 strikeouts for Zach Greinke, whose career high when he was with Kansas City, he struck out 15. So 2 down, third inning, and Ben Paulson coming up. Paulson batted for Morneau in the 9th inning of the first game and hit a home run. Last night, Paulson hit a home run. Last night's game, of course, that 12-inning effort. 1 ball and no strikes. And it was Paulson's home run against Paco Rodriguez in the 9th inning that sent the game into overtime. The 1-0 pitch on the way is high. Boy, a dancing Charlie Blackmon off second base. After having been picked off once in the series, perhaps Charlie is trying very hard to erase that thought. And as we mentioned, he's stolen third 6 times. 2 balls and no strikes. Greinke delivers, check swing at the plate. They'll look at the umpire at third, Field and Culbreth, and he says strike. So Ben Paulson back up to the plate, trying to pick up the tying run. And of course, Blackmon on a well hit ball can score. He's got the speed. The 2-1 pitch coming up to Ben Paulson is taken off the plate. Ball 3. Greinke trying to pitch very carefully. On deck, hitting cleanup, is Willen Rosario, the catcher. The next pitch swung on and missed. Big long swing by Ben Paulson. 3-2 the count. Rosario tuning up. 2 runs, 3 hits for the Dodgers. 1 run, 3 hits for Colorado. Dodgers trying to win their 94th game. Rockies trying to avoid losing game number 96. 3-2 the count. Greinke ready and delivers a roller to the right side. Couple of hops to Barney. He makes the play. So Charlie Blackmon is left at second base. And at the end of 2.5 innings, it remains Dodgers 2 and the Rockies 1. And lead the Rockies 2-1 as we go to the bottom of the third. It'll be the top of the lineup for the Dodgers. That means Darwin Barney, then Yasiel Puig, and Adrian Gonzalez. Not sure how many innings that the Dodger regulars will play, but it figures that Rojas, Arrubarena, and Barney will probably play quite a few, maybe the whole game. And people like Gonzalez and Kemp and Crawford and Ellis and Puig will probably be coming out, but not before, for Greinke's sake, that they'll play 5 innings to see if they can help him with a win. On the Diamond Vision screen in left field, they're showing the back of Juan Uribe wearing not only number 2 but Lasorda's name on the back. Hanley Ramirez, the bench coach, is wearing Tim Wallach's 29. And the first pitch now to Darwin Barney, down and away, ball 1. Barney led off the game with a fly ball, pretty deep, but an out. Christian Bergman coming back 1-0 and flips it in nicely for a strike. Barney, who's been very impressive in his time with the Dodgers, he's not going to hit a lot and no power, but he's certainly made some fine plays at second base. He takes down and away ball 2, which reminds us D. Gordon figures to open up at the position on Friday. Gordon left with inflammation of the hip, or at least his hip was bothering him, had an MRI, and they said it was good news. D said it was something that he's had all his career. Ground ball foul outside of third, 2 balls and 2 strikes, the count. Greinke in his 3 innings has made 49 pitches. Be interesting to see just how far he goes. And the next pitch in the dirt. By the way, in the first inning, remember Matt Kemp hit a home run with a man aboard? Couple of things. 17 of Matt's 25 home runs have come in his first at bat of a game. 17 against the starter. Second time 6 against the starter. Third time 2. And a flare to left field, drops for a base hit. Barney makes a turn and holds on with a leadoff single to left field. And that will bring in Yasiel Puig. 2 runs, 4 hits for the Dodgers, 1 run, 3 hits for the Rockies. Another note about Matt Kemp: in his 25 home runs, September has been his best month. Matt is 9 of the 25 home runs hit this month. 5 in August, 3 in June and July, 1 in May, and 4 the first month in April. Puig waiting, has a look at the first pitch, in for a strike, and the count 0-1. Yasiel struck out in the first inning, so his average now 297. He'll have to get a move on if he's going to wind up hitting 300. He takes a look at a pitch low, and a 1-ball, 1-strike count. The book on Christian Bergman, his fastball has been clocked as high as 92, so he doesn't throw that hard. Big league standings. He has a knuckle curveball, and that's raised some pretty good hitters having trouble. Add that to a slider and a changeup. The next pitch outside, throw to first. Barney diving back head first. So Rosario, with a good arm, takes a shot at first. Rosario looking over into the dugout for a moment. And Darwin Barney visiting with Ben Paulson at first. 2 balls and 1 strike, the count. Bergman ready, turns, throws to first. Barney back. So of course they're thinking the possibility of hit and run. For Yasiel Puig, in some ways hit and run is a gamble. He has struck out 123 times. He has only grounded into 7 double plays. Though we'll see. Barney's not gone, and the pitch half swing, and he fought it off. No swing, and the count goes to 3-1. So the scoreboard has to be changed. 3 balls and 1 strike instead of 2 and 2. So they didn't play hit and run, didn't figure because Puig strikes out so much. Now, if you think about run and hit, that's another story. On deck, Adrian Gonzalez, and nobody out. So we'll watch Barney. Out of his stretch goes Bergman. Barney's not going, and a big swing and a miss. So that's the thing when you have a player like Puig. He's hitting in the number 2 slot, but he is not the man that you can put a play on with very often. You certainly can't play hit and run because he strikes out, and even run and hit, you don't know if he'll go after ball 4. 3-2. Now let's see about Barney. He goes, and the pitch is a soft line drive caught by Rutledge, who throws over to first, not in time. Rutledge tried to catch it on the fly, and he was unable to do it, and by that time Barney was into second base. So Puig is aboard, figures to be a base hit. It was an effort to try to catch the line drive, softly hit, but he caught it in his glove and then dropped it, so maybe it'll be an error. We'll wait and see. Either way, Bergman is in trouble. 2 on and nobody out. Should Rutledge have caught it? Yes, I think so. So the Dodgers get a big break. And here is Gonzalez, who doubled in the first inning. 26 home runs, 113 runs batted in, and 41 doubles. And it will be an error charged to Rutledge. And the first pitch to Adrian on the outside corner for a strike. Adrian doubled, and talking about doubles, Jonathan LaCroix, you know, from Milwaukee, he became the first catcher to ever lead the league in doubles. LaCroix had 53 doubles, actually the most in the majors. Miguel Cabrera had 52. But boy, that's a great mark for a catcher. Meanwhile, Gonzalez unloads deep to right and gone. His 27th home run. That turns it to a 5-1 Dodger lead. So again, the inability to make the double play. That is probably one of the biggest game-deciding flaws in this well-desired game. I mean, if Rutledge catches that ball before it hits the ground, and he did but dropped it, they would have easily doubled up Barney, and you would have had 2 out, and Gonzalez maybe hits a home run. But instead, the inability of Rutledge turns a 1-run home run into a 3-run home run, and the Dodgers lead 5-1. And Adrian picks up 2 more RBIs. Little flare by Matt Kemp, and he's strong enough to bust one into right field, even though it was right on the thumbs.
Next left fielder, number 3.
Take another look at Adrian Gonzalez if you're watching on TV. Oh boy, a lollipop held high right out over the plate. And Gonzalez certainly knows what to do with that kind of a pitch. Clears it 3 rows back in the right field pavilion. Big Jim Wright, the pitching coach, out to the mound, so timeout for the moment. So Adrian Gonzalez driving in 3 with that home run. And that means Gonzalez now has 115 runs batted in. Last we checked, Mike Trout had 111. Jock Peterson is now going to run for Matt Kemp. So Kemp is gone as he's going to play today, and Peterson will take over in right field.
Jock Peterson.
So Matt Kemp finishing up a great season. Kemp with a home run and a single. Matt wound up 25 home runs, 88 runs batted in, and got his average up to around maybe close to 288 thereabouts. Carl Crawford takes ball 1. Crawford has really been amazing as Matt Kemp close of the year, and yet this is the end of the beginning and the beginning of a new set of circumstances. Crawford, a sinking line drive caught by Brandon Barnes. Left fielder coming up to make a good play. So down goes Carl, and the batter now will be A.J. Ellis. The Crawford hits it hard. Most of his outs are hard, as well as the base hits. Remember, since August 10th, Carl Crawford was hitting .415. So only one out. Dodgers have scored 3 to lead 5-1. A.J. Ellis trying to advance Jock Peterson, running for Matt Kemp. And breaking ball strike, in the count 0-1. 5 runs, 6 hits for the Dodgers. 1 run, 3 hits. One big error. It made the home run worth 3 instead of 1. Big difference. Ellis trying to pick up a runner. He has a look at a pitch low. AJ hitting under 200, but the Dodgers would be the first to jump to his defense, having had such a great year handling the staff, which is far more important than just getting base hits. 1 ball and 1 strike. AJ swings, doesn't get it. 1-2 the count. 5 runs, 6 hits for the Dodgers, including 2 home runs and a double. Dodgers, going into last night's game, had hit 30 home runs in the month of September. They had 1 last night from Gonzalez, 2 from Kemp and Gonzalez today. The pitch off the plate, throw to first, not in time. 2 balls and 2 strikes the count. For Don Mattingly, in his years as Dodger manager, his numbers are starting to climb the right way. First year 82 wins, the next year 86, the next year 92, and right now could be 94. They're keeping an eye certainly on Jock Peterson. Only 1 out. That was that line drive hit by Crawford. So Christian Bergman, 26-year-old out of Irvine, California. The 2-2 pitch, a bluff by Peterson, a swing and a miss at the plate by A.J. Ellis. So we have 2 down, and the batter will be Miguel Rojas. Couple of notes on Peterson. He normally gets excellent run support. Rockies have given him at least 5 runs a game, but he doesn't last long in the couple of starts. He's averaging about 5.5 innings. He does allow a pretty high rate of home runs, and he's given up 2 more today. He has now allowed 9 home runs and gets a strike. Of the 9 home runs that he has given up, 8 have been hit by a right-hander, and of course Adrian Gonzalez got him today. No balls and 1 strike. Next pitch lifted to straightaway center, very playable. Waiting for it is Drew Stubbs. One hands it, and that's the inning. So the Dodgers, because of the inability of Rutledge to hold on to the soft line drive, wind up picking up 3 in the big blow provided by Adrian Gonzalez. And at the end of 3, 5-1 Dodgers. Sportsnet LA is brought to you by the all-new Chrysler 200, America's import, and by Jack in the Box. Try Jack's Spicy Chicken Club combo at Jack in the Box with fries and a drink while it lasts. A gorgeous Sunday afternoon, and the families are here, including the little ones, and how grateful we are for their attendance. We'll have to teach him how to wave. There you go, a high five. 5 runs, 6 hits for the Dodgers. 1 run, 3 hits for the Rockies. And in the 4th, Willen Rosario, Drew Stubbs, and Brandon Barnes. Chopper wide of third, gobbled up by Rojas. 1 away. Drew Stubbs single to left field in the 2nd inning. By the way, the Dodgers made a defensive change, and this will be taking place all day. Scott Van Slyke takes over at first base. The skipper, Juan Uribe, inserts him at first and gets Gonzalez the rest of the game off. Jock Peterson, who ran for Matt Kemp, stays in the game. He's in right field. And that's what will happen. The majority of the players, the veterans, the starters, will be coming out. Except for Rojas, Arrubarrena. They figure to stay in. Barney might stay in. And now that Peterson's in the game, he figures to be there for the rest of the afternoon. Meanwhile, Zach Greinke trying to win the 17th. First time in his career. And he's leading 5-1 with 1 out in the 4th. Off speed, fouled away. Stubbs single to left, sacrificed to second, stole third, and came home on a base hit by Rutledge to account for Colorado's run. Drew 15 home runs, 43 runs batted in. 2-2. A lot of the puffy white clouds have joined to form a mass of clouds, but now we have a huge cover of beautiful blue. We got little raindrops around the city today. 3-2 the count. Gorgeous afternoon, 75 degrees. 3-2. And way inside. So with 1 out, Stubbs draws a walk. For Greinke, that would be the first walk that he's given up. And it'll bring up Brandon Barnes, who dropped the bunt down in the 2nd inning, advancing Stubbs to second base. Barnes, another local boy, born in Orange, California, went to Cypress Junior College. Interesting, Brandon was saying he had only played 1 year of baseball in high school. He was a football guy, a wide receiver. Ball 1. And when he got to Cypress, he asked the head baseball coach, could I try out? Well, he not only tried out, he made the team, and he ended up being a freshman All-American. And Brandon said, when I got drafted by the Astros, I was surprised. I didn't think that many people even knew about me. Oh, yes. The scouts know. 2-0 to Brandon Barnes. Meanwhile, the pitching coach, Clayton Kershaw, watching every move of Greinke. Zach has made 58 pitches, but Clayton Kershaw knows that. He has the clicker to count, borrowed from Rick Honeycutt. 2 balls and no strikes. There goes the runner and a foul ball. So Stubbs, who is quick, the center fielder, had a pretty good jump. He has stolen 19 out of 22. So the fellows who do the running, Charlie Blackmon with 28, Stubbs with 19. LeMahieu, who's not playing, has 10. But when you're on the Rockies and you play half your games in Colorado, you concentrate on the long ball, which actually has driven Rockies managers to distraction. Because what happens is, up there, they're always thinking rarefied air, the ball travels well, hit it out. Then they take that big, long home run swing on the road, and they really suffer. They are 21-59 on the road. That's a franchise record for a low time. But it's always been that way. 2-1 the count to Barnes. 2-2. Brandon spent 8 years in the Astros minor league system. That's how tough. You take a fine young athlete like Brandon Barnes, and there you are, 8 years in the minors. And there were times he'd be the first to say he wanted to shut it down. Lunges at one and strikes out. So a frustrating at bat for Brandon Barnes. Of course, he joins a long list of distinguished players. And with 2 out, Josh Rutledge. That'll also be strikeout number 5 for Zach Greinke. Little breeze now blowing from left to right. Rutledge single to center in the second inning. Two out, fourth inning. Dodgers lead 5-1. That was pretty close. Greinke figures to go 5. Take another look. The tag just a hair late. Very close. Rojas over to the mound for a moment, but Greinke deep in thought, no conversation. Juan Uribe, his bench coach Hanley Ramirez, his pitching coach Clayton Kershaw, and with the brilliance of those three, the Dodgers lead 5-1. 0-1 the count to Rutledge. Josh, 4 home runs, 33 runs batted in. Stubbs looks like he wants to run. Ground ball, base hit into right, so he'll have the opportunity. Peterson up with it, gets it back. So with 2 out, runners at first and second. Charlie Culberson coming up. Of course, a lot of fine ball players have been unable to play for the Rockies, including stars like Tulowitzki and Carlos Gonzalez, better known as Cargo. Also, Corey Dickerson is not here. Dickerson went to Mississippi for the birth of his first child. Corey hit .312 and had 24 home runs, 76 RBI. 2 on, 2 out. Culberson struck out in the second inning, batting 8th in the lineup. He has 3 home runs. Fastball down, ball 1. In some ways, the season has really flown when you think back to that first game on a cricket field in Sydney, Australia. And yet here we are at the end of 162 games. 1 ball and no strike. That's fouled away. Quite a few years ago, I changed my thinking. I used to think, well, there's another season gone by. Now I think there's another year of my life gone by, and that gives you a totally different aspect. And meanwhile, Ethier and company with shade and the youngsters sitting out enjoying the sunshine. 1-1. Change up. Missing. That hurried up there at 72 miles an hour. Greinke now has made 66 pitches. Dodgers really got a workout last night. The bullpen was really used up. Dodgers had 7 relievers following Dan Herron. Ground ball to Rojas. They get the force play, and that's that. No runs, 1 hit, 2 left, and at the end of 3.5 innings, Dodgers lead 5-1. Fourth inning. Let's turn the clock back a bit, not all the way to Australia, but let's go to Philadelphia, May the 25th. Chase Utley, the batter, strike 3 called, and Josh Beckett's first career no-hitter, the 24th no-hitter in Dodger history, and the first one since Hideo Nomo at Coors Field in 1996. Dodgers have had a list of no-hitters. We won't read them all off. They'll just put them up there for you. And the most recent, Clayton Kershaw against Colorado. The most interesting, I think, of all of them, besides the perfect game by Kopech, has to be the no-hitter by Nomo. In Denver, Colorado, of all places, on a mound that you could barely stand on. It was so muddied from the rain that Hideo could not pitch from a windup. And of course, Clayton had that gem here. Arrubarena, who fly deep to right field in the second inning, 0 for 1. Greinke got through the fourth inning with 18 pitches. So that runs up his pitch count to 67. Dan Herron made 78 pitches last night. That's about what they'd like from Greinke, I guess. And what Zach would like, of course, to go the fifth inning with a minimum number of pitches, and that would make him eligible. He will have pitched the required 5 innings and could pick up his 17th win, tops in his wonderful career. 0-2 the count. Arisbel Arrubarena, followed by Greinke and then Barney. And a fly ball to left field. Barnes at the other end of it. 1 down in the fourth.
Pitcher number 21,
Zach Greinke, robbed of a base hit by third baseman Rafael Inoa. Zach coming up. Promptly bangs one down the left field line into the corner. Greinke jogging into second base with a double. That would be the 6th double for Greinke, who is still a threat with the bat. He has a home run and 3 RBIs. Take a look at that swing.
second baseman,
staying close as long as he can, making good contact, rolling over, following through, and lined it deep into left field. So a one-out double by Greinke, and Darwin Barney coming up. So the Dodgers extra basing Bergman. 2 doubles and 2 home runs. Oh and 1. One ball and 1 strike. Darwin flied to left, single to left. Bergman has given up 5 runs and 7 hits. That's on the corner. For Bergman, he gave up a home run and a double to Gonzalez. Gave up a home run and a single to Kemp. And now Greinke doubles. Barney single. Over the year, right-hand batters have really given him a bad time. Ground foul. Still 1-2. Coming into this game, right-hand batters were hitting over .350 against Christian Bergman. Interesting, too, to show you what happens when he's pitching in Denver in 6 starts. Earned run average 6.5. Get him on the road, his earned run average is 3. 1 ball and 2 strikes. And a one-hopper. Nice play there at second base by Culberson. On the play, advancing to third is Greinke. And with 2 out, Yasiel Puig coming up.
66, Yasiel Puig.
Yasiel Puig struck out, reached on the error. That was that soft line drive. If Rutledge holds on to it, they would have gotten a double play, and Gonzalez home run would have meant 1. But Josh couldn't hold it after catching it. Got an error, and Gonzalez home run meant 3. So instead of 2-1, it's 5-1 Dodgers. Ball 1. With a runner at third, as we always do, we check Bergman. Bergman does not have a wild pitch. Morales, who had that wild pitch last night, has had 5, and that one really hurt him and the Rockies. It gave the Dodgers the victory. Two and 0 to Yasiel Puig. Big swing on that off-speed pitch, and the count 2-1. Probably another big story, but you're not going to read much about it in the major cities. But they certainly ought to put a spotlight on Jose Altuve of Houston. Altuve won the batting title. He hit .341. Justin Morneau won the National League batting title. He hit .319. .225 hits he had for Houston. Morneau taking in the ball game, having picked up the title. Pitch in the dirt, check swing, strike 3. Puig tried to hold up, couldn't do it. The Yasiel goes 0 for 3. Struck out twice, reached on an error. Greinke goes back into the dugout, and at the end of 4, 5-1 Dodgers. Dodgers. Are you looking for inside access to all the Dodgers postseason action? Then like the Dodgers on Facebook or follow them on Twitter and Instagram, and you'll get up-to-the-minute news, images, and more. For additional information, visit Dodgers.com/social today. Couple of changes for the Dodgers. No surprise there. Roger Bernardina will take over in right field. Peterson, who had been in right field, moves to center. So both Puig and Kemp are now out of the game. Gonzalez left earlier. Christian Bergman, the pitcher, a strike, and the count 0-1. Interesting to see Bernardina playing. First time he's been out on the field. Long fly ball. Jock goes back, makes it look easy. One away. Of course, that's also a consideration, and the Dodgers are thinking about it. I mean, the big question, first of all, is how many pitchers will the Dodgers put on the roster for the first round, the division series? If you knew that number, then you'd start to consider, well, wait a minute. Maybe in a late game, runner at second base representing a very important run, be kind of nice to be able to drop Bernardina into the action. But that would be a luxury to have a fellow basically a runner, but it's certainly been done before and with great success. Ball one to Blackmon, grounded out, double to right. Greinke needs 2 more outs to qualify for the win. Change in for a strike. Blackmon is grounded out and doubled. In the Dodger bullpen, Yimi Garcia begins to warm up. He pitched the 8th inning last night, made 17 pitches, and he'll be right back in the fire today. 2-1. So Justin Morneau batting title in the National League. Jose Altuve, the American League batting champ, with 225 hits. Kinsler second at 185. Foul ball. For Morneau, he had 160 hits. 160. That's not a lot of hits to win a batting title. But then when you look at second baseman, and they've all out hit Morneau. Altuve 225, Kinsler 185, Cano 178, Kendrick 177, and Gordon 176. Boy, Altuve at 5'5", piling up 225 hits. Meanwhile, we have 2 down now, and Rafael Yanoa, who has struck out twice, coming up. I would assume, with the pitch count up at 74 and 2 out in the 5th inning, if Greinke gets Yanoa, he will leave the game. Ball one. One and one. Noah switch hitter, and the 1-1 pitch. Off speed, fly ball to center. Peterson moving over, picks it off. And so I would think Greinke is finished for the day, and a very nice way to finish. He allowed 1 run and 4 hits, struck out a half a dozen, and walked 1. And he could win his 17th for the first time in his career. 5-1 Dodgers. The post-game edition of Access Sportsnet Dodgers. John Hartung and our studio team will bring you all the highlights, interviews, and expert analysis of the National League Division Series. So don't miss the post-game edition of Access Sportsnet Dodgers. That'll be Friday at 8 p.m. on Sportsnet LA. 5-1 Dodgers. Scotty Van Slyke, who was the hero last night for sure. Van Slyke single to right field with one out in the 12th inning. Tim Fedorovich hit by a pitch, advanced him to second. He promptly stole third and then came home on a wild pitch from Franklin Morales. 11 home runs, 29 runs batted in. Foul back. For Van Slyke, of course, he has done tremendous work against left-hand pitching, hitting .315 with 8 home runs against left-handers. Ground ball to third. Inoa makes the play. One down, and Jock Peterson will be coming up. Talking about Jose Altuve and the big year that he had, 225 hits, 341 batting average, first ever batting champ for the Astros, and with 225 hits, that broke Craig Biggio's Houston record. Jose also had 46 doubles, 56 stolen bases, and more than that, you realize there are only 2 second basemen to have ever had more hits in a single season. One of them, one of the greatest right-hand hitters the game has ever produced, Rogers Hornsby. Hornsby had more than 225 hits 4 times. Nap Lajoie had it twice. Charlie Gehringer did it once for Detroit. Billy Herman, who was a great star with the Cubs and played for the Dodgers, had 227. The Altuve at 5'5", like a giant. 1-2 the count to Jock Peterson. Jock hitting about $1.50. He is without a doubt a major league defensive outfielder, but like all the kids, the jury is still out whether he can hit. One other thought as we wrap up the year, we're talking about the batting champions. The fact there were maybe 14 hitters in both leagues to hit 300. Ground ball to first. That will do it for Peterson. And we have 2 down. In the end, there were only 3 20-game winners in the big leagues. 2 of them will go head-to-head on Friday. That's right. Clayton Kershaw with a record of 21-3 with an unbelievable earned run average of 1.7. He'll go up against Adam Wainwright, 20-9 with an earned run average of 2.3. And then Cincinnati's Johnny Cueto, who shut down the Pirates today. Johnny winds up 20-9. And an ERA of 2.2. So the cream of the crop, Kershaw, Wainwright, and Cueto. Clayton, the so-called pitching coach today, the aide to Jose Uribe. Boy, there's a lot of deep thinking going on. There's Hyun-Jin Ryu. They were going to put him in the bullpen, but they were afraid the language barrier, he might get a groundskeeper up. A chopper to third, and Crawford safely aboard. And Noah tried to backhand the ball, and it got away. And it's going to go as a base hit. The ball hit hard, and that means Crawford goes 2 for 3. So the only time they get Crawford, he hit the ball hard, line to left. So Carl finishing up in fine style. That should get him to 300, 2 for 3. And the batter, A.J. Ellis. A.J. grounded out, struck out 0 for 2. Miguel Rojas hitting behind him, and that's a strike. 0-1. Rojas is not in the on-deck circle, and the rule requires the on-deck circle to be occupied. Backhand block nicely by Rosario. Holding at first is Crawford. 2 down, bottom of the 5th. 5-1 Dodgers. Crawford right now is hitting .302. Well, actually 4 points, 3.002. That's good enough. He's hitting .300. 1-1. Carl with everything else, 23 stolen bases. .5-1 Dodgers, trying to give Zach Greinke his 17th win. Chopper to short, backhanded by Rutledge. Throw to first in the dirt. Nice pick by Paulson, and that'll do it. No runs, a hit, a man left. And at the end of 5, it's 5-1 Dodgers. Hershiser took the mound against the San Diego Padres and had himself, his hands were full. He went 10 innings pitching a shutout. However, the Dodgers failed to score as well. In fact, in the 10th inning, the Padres had runners at second and third with 2 out, and Orioles got a fly ball to right field to end the inning. That game went 16 innings. Dodgers got a run in the top of the 16th, and the Padres came back and beat the Dodgers 2-1. But the night will forever be remembered, the evening when Orel Hershiser passed Don Drysdale with 59 consecutive scoreless innings. Let's go back to this one.
Now pitching for the Dodgers, number 63, Yimi Garcia. Leading off the top of the 6th inning for the
Dodgers bring in Yimi Garcia to pick up for Zach Greinke. Garcia, as we mentioned, appeared last night. Most of the staff appeared last night. Dodgers used 8 pitches. Garcia made 17 pitches pitching the 8th inning, and the first thing he did was give up a home run to Michael McHenry, the catcher. Then he struck out 2, gave up a base hit, and got the 3rd out. So the young right-hander working now against Ben Paulson. Ball 1. Christian Bergman, who made 14 pitches, has now made 80 pitches in 5 innings. 1 ball and 1 strike. Couple of more changes for the Dodgers. Alex Guerrero is finishing up in left field. So Carl Crawford finishes the year hitting .300, and congratulations to him. That's a strike. Behind the plate, Drew Butera takes over for A.J. Ellis. And Garcia on the mound. Down he goes, going after a good fastball on the outside part of the plate. Greinke struck out 6. Garcia picks up 1. And the batter will be Willen Rosario, the catcher. Yimi Garcia from Moca in the Dominican Republic. He's 6'1", 175. Signed by the Dodgers 5 years ago. International free agent. And basically, Garcia facing Rosario has a fastball, slider, and a changeup. 1 ball and no strikes. Foul back. With the changes on the field, you might want to know that Butera will bat 9th. Bernardina is batting 2nd, originally occupied by Puig. Garcia is hitting 5th, where Crawford occupied. Two and 1. 2 and 2. Garcia is batting in A.J. Ellis' spot. And as we told you, Butera bats 9th. 2 and 2. Slider fouled away. Power pitch. So the Dodger lineup reads Barney, Bernardina, and Van Slyke, Peterson, Guerrero, and Garcia, Rojas, Arrubarena, and Butera. Just in case you might decide to keep score on the final game of the regular season, the game managed by the wonder manager Juan Uribe. 2 and 2. Foul back. Justin Morneau won the batting title in the National League. And it brings back the memory. Tommy Davis of the Dodgers won his first National League batting crown way back in 1962. In the final 3 games of the season, he did not put any pressure on himself because he didn't realize the best of 3 tiebreaker with the Giants counted in the final stats. Oh, great pitch. Rosario way out in front of the off-speed pitch. 2 strikeouts, and the batter will be stubbed. Don't miss all the nonstop action, excitement, and historic performances. Remember, the 2014 postseason begins September 30th. I assume that would be the Pirates and the Giants on that date. Yeah, for young Tommy Davis in those days, he was free and easy, and here he is playing a 3-game series, not realizing the best 3 tiebreaker with the Giants counted in the final stats. So there was no pressure. When the season ended, Tommy was hitting .347, 4 points, almost 5 ahead of Frank Robinson. And in the 3 games with the Giants, not realizing it was going to count, he went 3 for 13, wound up hitting .346, and won his first National League batting crown. And remember, talking about batting champions, Davis remains the only Los Angeles Dodger to win a batting crown. Dodgers had two other players who came close. Steve Sachs and Eddie Murray both finished second. So talking about finishing, Garcia comes in and strikes out the side, and we're heading to the bottom of the sixth. 5-1 Dodgers. To 1 Dodgers. We're talking about highlights. Remember, we showed you Josh Beckett's no-hitter. What about a defensive gem? May 22nd in New York. Yasiel Puig on the dead run, a diving catch, taking an extra base hit away from the Mets' Wilmer Flores. He made a couple of dandies, most recently an identical catch in left center field in Wrigley Field, Chicago. Yasiel Puig, a headline maker all the time. By the way, we're talking about the fact the Pirates losing today. The Cardinals win the division. So the Pirates in the wild card go head to head with the Giants in Pittsburgh Wednesday night. For the Dodgers, maybe a sigh of relief. You know, the Pirates beat the Dodgers 5 out of 7. And this is the first time in history that this has occurred, as Rojas pops one foul out of play. You realize it's the first time that 4 California teams have qualified for the playoffs. The Dodgers, the Giants, Seattle, and Oakland. Oakland clutched a wild card spot in Texas, and of course the Angels, they're the big club. Five runs, 8 hits, no errors for the Dodgers. 1 run, 4 hits, 1 error. I mentioned Seattle, erase that. Oakland won the wild spot today in Texas. So California really well represented in postseason. Angels, Dodgers, Giants, and Oakland. Okay. We're in the 6th, 5-1 Dodgers. Miguel Rojas followed by Aruba Reina and then Butera. Still 1-2 the count. Christian Bergman still in there. For Bergman, he has now made 84 pitches. He's been troubled after 50 pitches this year. The opposition hitting .354 against him after 50 pitches. One of his problems, and it's pretty evident today, Christian is not really a strikeout pitcher. His rate is the lowest. Only 12% of plate appearances are strikeouts against him, and he has allowed 3 strikeouts today.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Another thing that made him dangerous to himself and his ball club, and especially pitching in Denver, #1 lowest rate of ground balls to fly balls. Well, if you're a fly ball pitcher in Denver, you're not going to be in Denver very long. Here he's given up 2 home runs and a couple of doubles. Talking about fly balls, there's a foul ball. Well, we ought to talk about some of the positives for Christian. He's getting left-hand hitters out, but today he was burned by Adrian Gonzalez with a double and a home run. Been very effective with men on base. Christian with a 2-2 count on Rojas and gets him. So Rojas goes 0 for 3, 1 out in the 6th. And let's take a look at the calendar, because we have almost run out of baseball on the calendar for the moment. Remember, Friday it begins right here with the Cardinals. Friday and Saturday. Dodgers then will fly out after Saturday's game to St. Louis. Sunday will be a workout, and game 3 will be on Monday the 6th. If there are more games to be scheduled, there'll be another one with the Cardinals, and then if necessary, game 5 would be back here. 1 ball and no strikes. 2-0 the count. Arrubarena, 2 fly balls, deep to right and to left. By the way, we mentioned that Oakland got a wild card spot today in Texas, and there's somebody who has to be so very happy, and not just Arrubarena, who gets a base hit to left field. With Oakland clinching the wild card slot, the Adam Dunn drought is over. The big guy has played 2,001 games without ever playing in the postseason. And after 2001, he finally gets an opportunity with Oakland and the wild card. Arrubarena at first, Drew Butera the catcher, and ball 1 to Drew. 5 runs, 9 hits for the Dodgers, 1 run, 4 hits for the Rockies. One and one. When the Rockies come up in the 7th inning, they'll have Barnes, Rutledge, and Culberson. 1-1. 1-2. Butera trying to attack the ball a little bit out in front of the off-speed pitches. And a slider hit up the middle over the bag just by the diving Culberson, and stopping at second base, Arrubarena. So Butera, a single up the middle. First and second, 1 out. Barney coming up, and another look. The ball just squirts away from Culberson's efforts, and the Dodgers have 2 on, 1 out. Darwin Barney 1 for 3 as Butera comes up with hit number 10 against Bergman. And now let's see Big Jim Wright, the pitching coach, on his way out to the mound. Not a ball thrown in the bullpen. I'm wondering, since he is from Irvine, whether Christian Bergman has been allowed to pitch. Now they get a right hand to Rob Scahill up. He's been in game 1. But it could be they've given Bergman the wrong and give him a chance to get a victory before some home folks. And he will stay in. Christian Bergman, of course, born the year of the Dodgers' greatest triumph, 1988. Barney has flied to left, single to left, grounded out. Yep, there it is for all the world to see. A reminder of the excellence of a wonderful group of athletes who became world champions. Barney 1 for 3. And ball one. On this last day of the season, and you had Justin Morneau wondering whether he would have to play or not. He didn't have to. Josh Harrison went 0 for 4. So Morneau won the batting championship, hitting .319. In the American League, there was no doubt Altuve ran away with it. But you turn the clock back to one of the great moments, one of the great things about this baseball game. In 1941, Ted Williams started the day hitting .399.6. Tremendous pressure about finishing the year just about hitting .400. And a lot of people with Boston said, don't play. Sit on that number. Not Williams. He said, no, I will play. And it was a doubleheader. And all the great Williams did was go 6 for 8 and wind up hitting .406. The last man to hit .400. In those naive days of 1941, before World War II involved the Dodgers. Ground ball into left field, base hit. Here comes Arozarena. He will score. Barnes overruns the ball, and everybody moves up an extra 90 feet. And the Dodgers lead 6-1. So Barney, a single to left field. He goes 2 for 4. Picks up a run batted in. That's Arozarena. On the error by Barnes, Butera will score. And Butera will stop at third, and Barney will go to second on the error. And Arozarena ran the run in, and I think that's going to be all for Bergman. Weiss started to come out of the dugout, now goes back. He's had Scahill throwing in the bullpen, and Walt now apparently will make a double switch in the outfield. Matt McBride will head for the outfield. Charlie Blackmon will come out of the game, so McBride will. And let's see, Blackmon is not coming out. He's going to move over to center field, and Stubbs will come out. And Scahill jogging in, and we'll be back. Southern California Mazda dealers. Dodgers leading 6-1. A reminder, join us for the next episode of Connected With as we sit down with Dodger outfielder Carl Crawford discussing bringing a World Series to Los Angeles. Certainly Carl did his best. He wound up hitting .300 this year. So don't miss Connected With Carl Crawford today at 5 on Sportsnet LA. Couple of changes. Rob Scahill will come in. Scahill was in game 1, worked 2/3 of an inning. Also in the outfield, Matt McBride takes over in right field. Charlie Blackmon moves to center, and Drew Stubbs comes out of the game. So if you're keeping score, put Scahill in Stubbs' spot since Drew had made the last out.
Number 18,
Roger Bernardino got into the game to play the outfield. Now he has a chance to swing the bat. First base open, the infield is up, and the Dodgers leading 6-1, racking up 11 hits against Christian Bergman. The air in the end charged to Brandon Barnes. Long look by Scahill. Now he's ready. And a high drive into deep right field. If it's fair, it's gone. It is gone. The man who is paid to run can jog around the bases. And the Dodgers now lead 9-1. How about that for Roger Bernardino? And he will really get the home run treatment. So Bernardino comes in, high-fiving everybody. The bubble machine is dancing, and here they go. The victory pounding as Bernardino breaks the game wide open. The last time that Bernardino hit a home run was last year against the Mets. So he had gone 106 at-bats without a home run, and he hit a big one a mile high and right down the line. So 2 of those runs charged to Bergman, and now for good measure another base hit, this one by Van Slyke. Take another look. Bernardino, good long, stayed right on the ball. Stayed back, as they say, hit it inside out, roll those hands over, and hit it a mile. Way back, and it wound up just about to the back wall of the bullpen. So 9-1, and for Scahill, minding his own business, he's faced 2 batters, and he's given up a home run, and now a base hit. And the batter is Jock Peterson. Peterson finishing up for Matt Kemp. Matt had a home run and a single. Peterson 0 for 1. Dodgers 9 runs, 13 hits. Two balls and no strikes. Check for ball 3. 3-0. One out. That was Rojas striking out to begin the inning. Off the plate. So it's a tough start. Rob Scahill coming out of the bullpen and hasn't been able to get anybody. He gave up the home run to Bernardino, the single to Van Slyke, and now the walk to Peterson. And Alex Guerrero playing left field coming up. So Guerrero checking in. Matt Kemp had a 2-run home run and a single. Guerrero taking over for Crawford, and Crawford had 2 singles. So that's been a busy spot. The numbers 3, 4, and 5 in the Dodger lineup. One and one. Scahill's 27 years old, out of Lombard, Illinois. Made his debut 2 years ago. 6 relief appearances, allowed only 1 run. And popped in the air, foul. Should go out of play, and does. For Scahill, when he was in high school, quite an athlete. Played baseball, basketball, football. He was drafted by the Yankees and has worked away throughout his career to be with Colorado. Came up with Colorado 2 years ago. Rob Scahill. 1-2 the count. Foul back. That was a good fastball. Still 1-2. So the Dodgers had to go 12 innings last night and beat the Rockies 6-5. In the first game, they had a 6-run 6th inning to pile up 7 runs and win 7-4. And now here they are, 9-1. So Guerrero goes down swinging. Yimi Garcia will be coming up. Garcia will be the 9th man. Rojas started, 1 struck out. Arrubarena single. Butera single. Barney single to drive in Arrubarena. And the error put runners at second and third and was first base open. Roger Bernardina hit a 3-run home run. I have to remember Roger's name ends in an A. There was a player for years, Johnny Bernardino. And Johnny became an actor, was on a very successful soap opera that ran for years and years. 0-1 to Yumpin Yimi. The boy from Mocha. Just 24 years old. Impressive 6th inning. Came in and struck out the side. Paulson, Rosario, and Stubbs. Little ground ball to the right side. This should be the 3rd out, and is. So the Dodgers settle for 4 as they send 9 men to the plate. Take another look at Roger Bernardina as he drives one high and deep and fair, and the Dodgers break the game wide open. Inning, but let's turn the clock back. August the 2nd against the Chicago Cubs. Hanley Ramirez hits a breaking ball for a 3-run walk-off home run in the 12th inning off Blake Parker. The only walk-off home run for the Dodgers this year, and the only walk-off home run of Ramirez's career. Dodgers won that game 5-2 in 12 innings. A great moment to look back. Dodgers leading 9-1. Ramirez acting as the bench coach today. While we have a moment, we want to certainly salute two of our favorite people. First of all, James Mims, who does such a great job along with Robert taking care of business in the press box. Well, James and his wife Betty Mims, they are celebrating their 57th anniversary. 57. So our greatest congratulations to both of them, and with much love as well. Pedro Baez trying to pick up after a very impressive interference on Yimi Garcia, and Brandon Barnes will start it off. The auditions continue for the roster. Barnes, sacrifice, struck out, committed an error, and ball one. Dodgers trying to win their 94th. Washington going into the game had 95, and Jordan Zimmerman pitched a no-hitter. So the Nationals wind up with 96 victories. Baltimore began the day with 95. The Angels began the day with 98. Two balls and no strikes to Brandon Barnes. 2-1. And another strike. 2-2 to count. Pedro Baez was a third baseman, as we see Rutledge on deck. So he's only been pitching really a little more than a year and a half. And here he is in the big leagues and throwing hard. 2-2. Got him. So Barnes gets a piece of it, so he's still up there. Foul tip. Last 4 out of 5 Rockies have struck out. Daniel Coulombe, the young left-hander, warming up in the Dodger bullpen. That no-hitter by Jordan Zimmerman brings up a thought about a no-hitter on the final game of a year, 162. In 2013, Henderson Alvarez of Miami pitched a no-hitter against Detroit. And then today, Jordan Zimmerman of Washington pitched a no-hitter against Miami. And by the way, who do you think the losing pitcher was? Henderson Alvarez. And that smoked to center for a base hit. So Barnes singles and Rutledge coming up. First career no-hitter. The Nationals' first since moving to Washington from Montreal. First no-hitter in franchise history since Dennis Martinez pitched a perfect game here at Dodger Stadium in 1991. And the second straight season a pitcher has thrown a no-hitter, we just told you about that, on the last day of the season. I remember Dennis Martinez pitching the perfect game here, and of all the reactions, the most emotional one I've ever seen. He pitched that no-hitter and broke down sobbing in the then Montreal dugout. Nick Massett warming up in the Colorado bullpen. Nick was in last night's game, pitched the 9th inning. Seems like everybody was in last night's game. 0-1 the count. Nine runs, 13 hits for the Dodgers. Home runs by Matt Kemp, Adrian Gonzalez, and Roger Bernardino. Kemp with a man aboard, Gonzalez with 2 men aboard, and the same for Bernardino, hitting the home run with first base open. How sweet that was. 1-2 the count. Barnes at first. They're not holding him on. They don't expect him to do any base stealing. Down 9-1. Fouled away. Still 1-2. Baez hitting 95 on the gun. One pitcher I remember very well was a third baseman, and they converted him to pitching. That was Bucky Walters, who pitched years ago with the Cincinnati Reds and was a good pitcher. And he was converted from being a third baseman. Couldn't hit, like the way he threw to first, strong arm, and like Baez, they converted him, and he did very well. Just missed a 97-mile-an-hour fastball. 2-2. Charlie Culberson on deck. And that's going to go into right field for a base hit. Stopping at second is Barnes. So the Rockies back-to-back singles here in the 7th inning. And the batter will be Charlie Culberson. 6 hits for Colorado. Greinke allowed 4 and 1 run. Garcia struck out 3. And now Baez gives up 2 singles, and the batter Charlie Culberson 0 for 2. And we're looking to the manager for the moment, Juan Uribe. Culberson struck out, hit into a force play. Ball 1. Matt McBride batting 9th in the lineup, and he's out on deck. Remember, they made that double switch. Cahill batting in Stubbs' spot, and McBride playing right field, batting in the number 9 hole. 1 ball and 1 strike to Charlie Culberson. Throwing nice and easy, hitting 96. He had 1 at 97. Pedro Baez, 6'2", 200-pounder. 26 years old. And that's going to go foul out of play. So the Dodgers trying to give Zach Greinke his 17th victory. Zach will finish up 17-8. He made 77 pitches. He was right on schedule. Dan Herron made 78 pitches last night. 1-2. And that's going to be hit and caught by Barney. Whoa. Darwin Barney making another fine defensive play at second base. Culberson losing a base hit. And that's the first out with 2 on. Looked like Shirley would drop, and Barney, like a ballet star, up in the air and fully extended, spears it. Beautiful play. So 1 out. Matt McBride checking in. Remember, Barney, a Gold Glove winner a couple of years ago for the Cubs. And he just made a dazzling play. McBride, right-hand batter, in no hurry to check in. Matt's from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. 6'2", 215, 29 years old. And ball 1. Made his debut a couple of years ago against the Giants. Went 2 for 4 with a double and a run batted in. Matt was originally selected by Cleveland. Ball 2. McBride appeared as a pinch hitter in last night's game and fouled out to right field. One out, 2 on. 7th inning, 9-1 Dodgers. That's a strike. 2-1 the count. Dodgers trying to finish up the year in high style. Trying to win 5 in a row, 16 out of 22, and also finish off the Rockies and win 13 out of 19. And then they will play on Friday against the Cardinals. And it looks like Adam Wainwright, a 20-game winner against Clayton Kershaw, who won 21. We still have not heard what time that game Friday or Saturday will be played. Dodgers also trying to beat Colorado 13 out of 19 and finish with a 5-game winning streak, heading for the playoffs. 2 on, 1 out, and a 2-ball, 2-strike count to Matt McBride. Barnes at second, Rutledge at first. Looked like a high fastball that jumped at 97. Wow. So McBride strikes out, and hold everything. Here comes the manager, Juan Uribe. Uribe having gone head-to-head with Clayton Kershaw, his pitching coach. And with the left-hand hitter, Charlie Blackmon, coming up, you can understand the great strategy. And they'll bring in the left-hander, Pedro Baez, very impressive despite giving up a couple of base hits. Daniel Coulombe will be coming in, and we'll be back.
Attention, please. Now coming into
returns, replay reviews, scores, live radio broadcasts, the MLB.TV game of the day, and more. Get the at-bat for your smartphone or tablet on the AP Store or visit MLB.com. Dodgers leading 9-1. They bring in young Daniel Coulombe, born and raised and still lives in Scottsdale. He'll be 25 the end of October. Went to school at Texas Tech. Dodgers drafted him in June 2 years ago. Not big. You expect big league pitchers to usually be around 6'2", 6'3". Most of the Rocky pitchers are that big and bigger. Dan is 5'10", 185. Charlie Blackmon, good ball player, 1 for 3. Charlie grounded out, doubled, and struck out. Drafted twice as a pitcher and found his way in the outfield big time, hitting .287. 1-1. So Baez made 23 pitches. Greinke, Garcia, Baez, and now Coulombe. Daniel had Tommy John surgery in 2011. Came back in 2012, used primarily in relief, and did very well, an ERA of about 2.5. 2-1. Dan accepted a baseball scholarship to USC. Went 9-0 and an earned run average of 0.7 when he was in high school. Ground foul, 2-2 to count. So Blackmon with Inoa on deck. We're in the 7th. Dodgers using Greinke, who's the pitcher of record, could win his 17. Garcia, Baez, and Coulombe. So far, Bergman and Scahill, and Bergman will suffer the defeat. Deuce is wild, 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, and 2 on. And a line drive that explodes up the middle into center. Picked up in center by Peterson and down 9-1. They're going to load the bases rather than risk an out at the plate. So Blackmon goes 2 for 4 as he singles to center. And the bases are loaded. So Blackmon at first, Rutledge at second, Barnes at third. Rafael Yanoa struck out twice, flied to center. Last night he had a walk and 2 singles, and in the game before he was on base a couple of times on a walk and 2 Dodger errors. So the young man who spent 8 years in the Dodgers minor league system, playing against them for the 3 games in the absence of Nolan Arenado, and up there now with a chance to drive in a couple of runs. Ball 1. Coulombe almost committing a wild pitch. Dodgers lead 9-1. And that's a strike. 1 ball, 1 strike. On deck, left-hand hitter Ben Paulson. And a drive to left field down the line. It is going to get by the diving effort of Alex Guerrero. 1 run will score, 2 runs will score, 3 runs will score. So Inoa clears the bases with a double, and it's 9-4 in favor of the Dodgers. So Inoa with a double and 3 runs batted in.
First baseman number 4, Ben Paulson.
All out effort by Alex Guerrero in left field, but he came up empty. Trying to run it down. The dive missed it by a little less than a foot. And everybody comes home. Four runs on 8 hits for Colorado. Ball one to Ben Paulson. 2 ground balls and a strikeout. So Ben, who hit 2 home runs in the series, 0 for 3 in a starting role today. So the runs charged to Baez. That's fouled back out of play. 1 ball and 1 strike. Greinke, Garcia, Baez, and Coulombe. 9-4 Dodgers. Breeze picked up, blowing to right field. That's fouled off. 1-2 the count. We were talking about various moments throughout the year and in the past. If you go all the way back to the 1976 season, there was a big battle for the National League earned run title between John Denny of the Cardinals and the Dodger left-hander Doug Rauh. Denny allowed 1 run, 8 innings, lost 1-0 at Pittsburgh, finished with an ERA of 2.52. Rauh came in relief against San Diego. Retired 4 batters, but he also gave up a run. And he finished 2.57. So you know it clears the bases, but Paulson strikes out. Colorado settles for 3, and we're heading to the bottom of the 7th. 9-4 Dodgers.
attention, please. These changes to the hitters. Moving from right field to left field with the center.
Well, we're having some fun with the crowd, and they are enjoying it, as you can hear in the background. And the Dodgers take a 9-4 lead into the bottom of the 7th inning. For the Dodgers, already piling up 9, and Miguel Rojas will start it off, followed by Arrubarena, and then Drew Butera, the catcher. Rojas popped up, flied to center. Last time up, struck out. Fastball awfully tight, 1-1. Nine runs, 13 hits for the Dodgers, including 3 home runs and 2 doubles. Fastball, chopper up the middle, onto his left is Rutledge, makes the throw in a hurry, and he gets away from Ben Paulson at first base. So Garcia is aboard, and we'll see if they chalk up a base hit. Since it was an overthrow, Rojas on his way to second. Rutledge, the off balance, kind of a side straddle hop when he threw, and he threw it in the dirt. Arrubarena will be coming up. By the way, if you are keeping score, a couple of changes. Brandon Barnes, who was in left field, has moved to center. Matt McBride, who was in right field, moves to left. And Kyle Parker takes over in right. And Nick Massett doing the pitching. 1 ball and no strikes. Rojas at second base. That played the off-balance throw, etc., went as a base hit. Then, to account for the fact he's now at second base, Rutledge draws an error. 3 errors for the Rockies today, just to complicate their lives. And the Dodgers with a runner at second base, and Arrubarena trying to pick up Rojas. 2-1. Fouled away up to the right, out of play. Nick Massett will bat first in the Rockies lineup when Blackman came out of the ball game. And ball 3. Dodgers 9 runs, 13 hits, no errors. Drew Butera waiting on deck. And the Rockies 4 runs, 8 hits, and 3 errors. Fastball, 1 hopper, nice pick by Yanoa to take a base hit away from Arrubarena. Holding at second is Rojas, 1 down. Boy, that was a wonderful play. That was vintage Nolan Arenado. Sinking line drive, short hopped it, held the runner at second, and makes the play at first. So 1 down. Yanoa impressive in his 3 games. After spending 8 years in the Dodger minor league system, it's good to see him play that well in the big leagues. Drew Butera singled in the 5th inning. Greinke, while he was in there, was robbed of a hit by Yanoa, and then Zach doubled. 9-4 Dodgers, 1 out, 7th inning. And a high foul ball. I mean high and I mean foul. Well back in the crowd. A little background story on something that took place yesterday. Ramon Santiago, the Pittsburgh Pirate catcher, became the second player whose first career grand slam came after his 35th birthday and was a walk-off home run. And Butera hit by the pitch right off the helmet. He was bending down under a curveball and it hit right on top of the helmet. Might have jarred him a little bit, but he's able to trot to first. So 2 on. Darwin Barney coming up. Let's get back to Ramon Santiago. First career slam on after his 35th birthday and was a walk-off home run. Who was the other one? A catcher for the Dodgers, although he also played for other teams. Mickey Owen. In July of 1954, Mickey was playing for the Red Sox. He had a 9th inning walk-off grand slam to beat the Orioles. It was Owen's first career grand slam and the last home run of his career. Mickey Owen's name in Brooklyn Dodger history is always linked with Hugh Casey. Throw to second for 1, on to first, not in time. Taking third is Rojas. So with 2 down, Roger Bernardino will be coming up.
Right fielder number 18, Roger Bernardino.
Roger Bernardino, known for running. In fact, that was the one principal reason the Dodgers acquired his services, to pinch run. And he came up in the 6th inning with first base open. And with runners at second and third, he proceeded to hit a 3-run home run just about to the back of the visiting bullpen. Slow curveball, ball 1. Take another look for the Roger Bernardino Marching and Chowder Society. It was a fastball by Bergman, and he deposited that thing deep in the bullpen. One ball and no strikes. Ball 2. The name Mickey Owen brought back Brooklyn Dodger history and a pitcher named Hugh Casey. And in the World Series, in a big game against the Yankees, a pitch got away from Mickey Owens. The Yankees went on to win the series, and it was a highly debated pitch. Turned out it was a spitter. And it also fooled Mickey Owens because he was looking for another pitch. And I think as long as Mickey lived, he hated to be linked with that illegal pitch from Hugh Casey, the big Dodger defeat to the Yankees in the World Series. 2 balls and 1 strike, the count. First and third, 2 out. Bernardino with 3 runs batted in. Nice save by Rosario. Rojas at third. Barney at first. Another interesting note on the year. Nolan Arenado, injured, can't play for the Rockies. Wonderful third baseman. And as it turns out, he had the major's longest hitting streak this year, 28 games straight. As a ground ball base hit, Bernardino picks up another RBI to give him 4. And the Dodgers lead 10-4. So a big day from a fellow you really didn't expect to see him swing the bat. 4 runs batted in for Roger Bernardino. Jim Wright, big pitching coach, on his way out to talk to Massett. Let's take another look. Roger the Dodger comes up with the base hit. Scott Van Slyke will be the batter. Took over after Adrian Gonzalez had a double and a 3-run home run. Van Slyke has grounded out and singled. Wright talking, Nassett listening. Arenado's 28-game hitting streak in April into May. 28 straight. Down in the Colorado bullpen, right-hander Brooks Brown begins to warm up. On deck, Jock Peterson, 2 out. They're not going to bother holding anybody on. They're all deep. Ball 1, Dodgers leading by 6, 10 runs, 14 hits. Rockies 4 runs, 8 hits, 3 errors. The interesting thing about a game played in Denver, you never really think the game is out of sight. No way. I mean, 10-4 up there. Yeah, well, got a couple of innings left. And one of our favorite and then again forgettable memories, we always bring it up when talking about Denver. Rockies beat the Dodgers in 9 innings, 16-15. Their numbers, of course, way out of kilter because of the rarefied air. Off speed, Scotty out in front of it, 1-2. Remember when Don Baylor was the manager, he was trying to figure out how you could make it a ball game. You couldn't put the outfield fences any deeper. Well, what else do you do? And they thought, well, somehow deaden the ball. And that's when they came up with the humidor. And a check swing for strike 3. Down goes Van Slyke. And mercifully, that's the end of the 7th. The Dodgers get 1. And at the end of 7, Dodgers 10, Colorado 4. Roger Bernardino having a day to remember. Let's go June the 18th against Colorado, and that was the big moment. Kershaw strikes out Corey Dickerson to end the game. The only base runner came on Hanley Ramirez's error in the 7th inning. Kershaw struck out 15, and that was the 25th no-hitter in franchise history. Another great moment in this most exciting season. So for Clayton, credentials for the MVP. A no-hitter, 41 straight scoreless innings, 21 wins, most in the league. ERA .7, that's the lowest. 6 complete games. Well, the last 2 managers that have been here, each one suggested that Clayton should be the MVP. Bruce Bochy, when the Giants were here, and Walt Weiss has been quoted saying that Kershaw would get his vote for the MVP. Especially when the everyday players like Troy Tulowitzki and Giancarlo Stanton have been sidelined. Clayton really is the most logical MVP. We'll see if it comes about. 10-4 Dodgers. We're now in the 8th inning. Willen Rosario, the catcher, 0 for 3, and drives one to center. Peterson going back to the track at the wall, has a good look as it goes out. So Willen Rosario hits a home run, and it is 10-5 as Colon gives it up.
Your attention, please. Pinch hitting for the Rockies. Number 33.
Justin Morneau, after we take a look at that home run, Justin Morneau is coming off the bench to have a swing. The National League batting champion for 2014, and Justin checking in now for one last at bat during the regular season. Strike. 0-1 to Justin. Morneau hitting .319. His closest competitor, Harrison, went 0 for 4 today to fall back. Ground ball to the right side. One out for Morneau, and the batter will be Brandon Barnes.
Center fielder, number 1, Brandon Barnes.
Brandon Barnes sacrificed, struck out, and singled. 8 home runs, 27 runs batted in. Brandon started in left, finishing up in center. Down in the bullpen, Rex Brothers, the left-hander, beginning to warm up. The Daniel Colon trying to close up for the Dodgers, and an off-speed pitch in for a strike. Josh Rutledge, the shortstop, on deck. Rutledge having a big day with the bat, 3 for 3. and 2. Dodgers will relax with the family tomorrow. They'll work out here at Dodger Stadium Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then it will begin. The pressure cooker, Adam Wainwright, a 20-game winner against Clayton Kershaw, who won 21. 1 ball and 2 strikes the count. Dodgers using Greinke, Garcia, Baez, and Coulombe. Greinke in line to win his 17th. He'll go 2-0 against the Rockies and 6-2 lifetime. Fastball, a little sink to it. Down goes Barnes. So here's Rutledge.
14, Josh Rutledge.
3 for 3, single to center and twice single to right. Rutledge getting his average up to 269. Bergman, Scahill, Massett, and we'll see Brothers in the bottom of the 8th. Straight change up outside, ball 1. Almost looked like Coulombe was trying to turn that change over, but nothing happened. One and 2 the count to Josh. Rutledge, an Alabama boy. Fastball, soft line drive to Barney. So a home run by Rosario, and then a 1-2-3 inning. And we're heading to the bottom of the 8th, 10-5 Dodgers. Back one more time, September the 13th at San Francisco. You may remember the Dodgers scored 4 runs in the first inning, 3 in the second inning, and after losing 9-0 the night before, they polished off the Giants 17-0. And Don Mattingly called it the most important inning of the season, as the Dodgers showed the bounce-back ability, having been blanked 9-0, come roaring back to win that game 17-zip. The Dodgers came into San Francisco perhaps worried, left with a 1-game lead, and they were never headed again. Remember, in June, the Dodgers were 9.5 games behind San Francisco and passed them. In fact, the start of the day, the Dodgers lead the Giants by 6. So Rex Brothers will become the 4th Colorado pitcher. Rex with a record of 4-6. Did not pitch last night. Did pitch the 8th inning. Just gave up a base hit, nothing else, in the first game. Oh, and 1 the count. Jock Peterson came over and took over for Matt Kemp in right field and then moved over to center. 1 ball and 1 strike. Peterson, Guerrero, and then the pitcher spot. One and 1. Big chopper to the right side, and 1 away. The paid attendance today, with 1 out here in the bottom of the 8th inning, 48,278. So the Dodgers wound up for the regular season drawing 3,782,337. That's the second highest paid attendance in Dodger history, second to going back to 2007. 48,278 on Fan Appreciation Day. And the appreciation really means the Dodgers owing so much to the sports fans here in Southern California. Not just this year, but ever since they arrived back in 1958. 1 ball and 1 strike to Alex Guerrero. Crawford, Carl had 2 for 3 today, and he wound up the year hitting 300. One out, 8th inning, 10-5 Dodgers. Ground ball, foul down the line. Oh, Alex had come back, try it again. In looking at Carl Crawford's years, you have to go back to the Devil Rays in 2010. Carl hit .307 with 15 home runs, 68 runs batted in. He hit 300 4 or 5 times at least for the Rays. Breaking ball takes care of Guerrero. 2 out in the 8th. And Justin Turner will be coming up. Say a reminder, Thursday at 8, join us for a thrilling episode of Backstage Dodgers. We'll capture the celebration that comes with being National League West champions. Relive the excitement in the new episode of Backstage Dodgers. That'll be Thursday at 8, right here on Sportsnet LA. A round of applause for Justin Turner and the remarkable year that he had. Turner, .338, 7 home runs, 43 runs batted in, a pivotal figure throughout the season with the bat and the glove, playing first, second, short, and third. Fouled it back. Turner appeared in 108 games, and what a year. He also had 20 doubles and a triple, and had some wondrous at-bats, about as tough a hitter as there was in the major leagues with 2 strikes. He also had a remarkable year with men in scoring position. So you really can't say enough about Justin Turner. He has a little 5-game hitting streak. Rex Brothers with 2 out facing Turner. One ball, one strike. 1-2. Since the All-Star break, Justin Turner hit .383. Since May the 11th, he hit .378. Truly remarkable year. Oh, and one other thing, as a pinch hitter, he hit .379. 2-2. Rojas hitting back of him. 2 out in the 8th. Dodgers lead 10-5. Broke the game wide open to lead 9-1. Now it's closed up a little bit. 2-2. And a fly ball into right field. Fighting the sun is Parker, and he can't make the catch. Justin on his way into second base with what might be called a sun double. As soon as that ball got up in the air, you could see the sunglasses glistening. Very tough play. So I assume they will give Turner a sun double. As soon as it went up in the air, you knew it was trouble. And he just barely got the tips of the glove on it. So for Turner, a gift. A 2-out double lost in the sun, and that'll probably get him up right around 340. For Turner, his 21st double. He had a triple and 7 home runs. And with 2 out now, here's Rojas. Dodgers 10 runs, 16 hits in the warm-up game before Friday. One ball and no strikes. Rojas going all the way. Popped up, fly to center, struck out, had an infield single. And by the way, Turner will wind up with the sun double and a .340 batting average for this year. One and one to Miguel. Dodgers scored 2 in the first, 3 in the third, 4 in the 6th, 1 in the 7th to give them 10. Rockies scored a run in the 2nd, 3 in the 7th, and 1 in the 8th. Dodgers have 3 home runs and 3 doubles thanks to that sun double. Rockies have 1 home run and 2 doubles. Two and one. Fastball fouled away upstairs. Culberson, McBride, and then a hitter for Brothers. Way the Rockies figure to come up in the 9th inning. For Zach Greinke to pick up the victory, it means he is 5-0 in his last 8 starts. Little ground ball, nice pick. Culberson takes him, and that'll be that. So the Dodgers get the sun double from Turner and leading, and we're heading for the 9th, 10-5 in favor of the Dodgers. 7th inning, and certainly the player of the game would be Roger Bernardino, who came up and hit a 3-run home run in the 6th inning and had a base hit to drive in one more. Bernardino, with 4 RBIs, gets the bubble treatment and the victory pats on the helmet. So it's a nice moment for Roger, who appeared for the Dodgers as a pinch runner and had a big day with the bat. Well, Kenley Jansen now is asked to polish up his act a little bit in his 68th game. Kenley getting ready for the pressure spot starting Friday. So in a so-called meaningless game today, leading by 5, Kenley will go to work. Charlie Culberson will face him. Charlie is 0 for 3. He lost a base hit on that acrobatic leaping catch by Darwin Barney. That was in the 7th inning. So Kenley just trying to wrap it up. And first pitch popped foul. Coming over is Rojas and Gutierrez. Somebody called. That's a bad play for the dugout. The boys down in the dugout could have helped. And Uribe's there as well. You could see a collision in front of the Colorado dugout, but not in front of your own dugout. Somebody has to be hollering. And obviously, maybe the voices, one saying Gutierrez, one saying Rojas. But that's really a team error to have that happen. And the Dodgers are lucky that Gutierrez, the taller of the two, was able to snare the foul ball. So 1 out. Here's Matt McBride. Appeared as a pinch hitter, stayed in the game. And a strike. Matt McBride hitting .240 and has dropped with 2 at-bats to .233. Does have 2 home runs, 6 runs batted in. No balls, 1 strike. 0-2. Kenley Jansen, an ERA of 2.8. He has 99 strikeouts and 19 walks. The opposition hit .226 against him, and he's cutting into that now as he strikes out McBride. So that's 100 strikeouts for Kenley Jansen and only 19 walks. So the gentle giant has 2 outs in the 9th. And Kyle Parker finishing up at right field. Remember, fought and lost the battle with the sun. Here's Parker. Fouled away. When Babe Ruth played the outfield in Yankee Stadium, he always played right field. The reason, the way Yankee Stadium is laid out, right field is the shade field. The Babe never had to worry about fighting the sun. And he was, as you know, such a great player. They did what he wanted. So the Dodgers will wind up with a 5-game winning streak, 16 of the last 22. They will have beaten Colorado 13 of 19. And the Rockies finish with a 4-game losing streak and 5 of the last 6 losses on the road. That's popped up off third. Rojas watching. Can't make the play. One ball and 2 strikes, 2 out in the 9th. Again, it's Wainwright and Kershaw. Friday will begin the division series. The only problem is we don't know yet what time it will be. And the Pirates and the Giants have that 1-game playoff Wednesday night. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Got him. So Kenley comes in, strikes out 2 of 3, winds up with 101 strikeouts, and Roger Bernardino winds up with 4 RBIs as the Dodgers win at 10-5. For Jansen, not much of a workout. He only took 8 pitches to get the 3 outs. So that's it for the regular season. For all of us connected with the telecast and radio, our heartfelt thanks for your kindness and considerations. We were delighted to enjoy the ride all year long, and now we look till Friday like everybody else. Until then, we wish you all a very pleasant good afternoon, everybody.